Welcome to the Friday Frenzy at the Ramble Within. I am She Rambles.
And I'm Coach O Speaks.
And we're going to talk about these overreactions to the NFL schedule release. We're hitting it off with Mr. Dan Graziano, ESPN writer, contributor. And we're just going to go straight to the Dolphins. We're not going to worry about nobody else because, my baby is a Dolphins fan. And this is what they have to say. That the Dolphins will end up being with the number one draft pick. So they automatically, right off the top, because of the schedule, saying that, Dolphins they're gonna be at the bottom. So Miami moved on from the GM. We know that they got rid of Mike. Tariq is gone. Tua is gone. They got Malik Willis. They did some trades and all of this stuff like that. This looks like a team in full rebuild mode, and the Dolphins have the second toughest schedule based on the 25 records of their 26 opponents. They played 9 games against teams that made last season's playoffs and 11 against teams that had winning records. Do you think this is overreaction?
Oh, 100%. But I'm a Dolphin fan, so everything is going to be an overreaction to me. Everything is going to be biased to me, okay? But I'm going to also speak with rationalization, okay? Scheduling comes out. There's a reason for the scheduling. It's to get you excited, to get you hyped up. It's to get you motivated for what's coming up for this year. Plus, it gets to show you who we're going up against. So, if we always went based on what the scheduling and what the teams did the year before that, man, we could be here all day talking about what ifs, what nots, what could have, what should have, etc. However, they're saying that they're going to have one of the worst records because of the scheduling. They're going to get the number one pick. That's what they're saying, right? Let me backtrack for a few seconds right quick before I really go in. So I'm actually going to go into my ramble today, and that's why I wanted to do this, because this is my passion. This is what I love. I'm Coach O. I coached high school football for many years. I coached Little League football, which I didn't really enjoy because parents, I know how y'all are. Y'all get involved a lot, and it was just too much for, to deal with the parents and trying to get the kids to do when they're listening to the parents. And then I coached 1 year of arena football. So I do have a lot of experience when it comes to what we're about to talk about. They're talking about the Dolphins. A few years ago, we made a lot of trades, right? We left Brian Flores. We drafted Tua. Brian Flores didn't pan out. We bring in Mike McDaniels. But in that process of bringing in Mike McDaniels, we brought in all these players. We gave away all these draft picks. We brought in Tyreek. We gave up 5 draft picks to get Tyreek. We brought in Jalen Ramsey. We gave up another first-round draft pick. I believe 2 of them. We gave up a first-round draft pick to bring in Bradley Chubb. We put all of our eggs in our basket, as a lot of people like to say, and it didn't pan out. We didn't win a Super Bowl. We didn't even win a playoff game. We lost both playoff games, right? So now we get a rebuild. We're starting over. And they're saying we're going to be the bottom feeders. Okay. Last year, New England Patriots. The year before that, they were 4-13 twice, 2 years in a row. The whole up and down after Belichick, they had, Jerod Mayo, things like that. Culture, right? Culture. You're going to hear me talk about culture. 4-13. They bring in a winning coach, Mike Vrabel. They bring in a culture change. They drafted well. They brought in free agent picks that fit what they were looking for, fit the culture they were trying to build. And what happened? They went from 4-13 to 13-4 and into the Super Bowl. Okay? So you can't sit there and say, oh, well, they schedule this, they schedule that. No, forget about the schedule. No one cares about who you play. It's what happens from the top on down. The organization, they made changes. They brought in winning culture. They bring in John Eric Sullivan from Green Bay. He brings in his head coach, because naturally when you come into your own situation as being the GM or the head coach, you bring in your people. You bring in what you feel is going to help you build what you're trying to establish. So he brings in Jeff Hafley. And what did they do? They bring in their quarterback. The quarterback that they wanted to build the team around, and that's what they did. And now they brought in, yes, we're tapped with money. 100% we're tapped with money. We had some of the worst contracts. Why? Because we were trying to win a Super Bowl and failed. So we had to get rid of all that money. It's going to hurt us for the next couple of years. But We're building the culture, right? We're showing what winning is about. It doesn't matter who you bring on the team. You could bring the best of the best, but if they don't believe in the process, if they don't believe in the culture, you'll never win games. That's what's happening right now. So yes, people from the outside, all the noise, oh, they got rid of Tua, they got rid of Tyreek, they got rid of Jalen Waddle, but guess what? We're bringing in culture. We're bringing in draft picks. We brought in very good draftees that we drafted, with Caden Proctor, the tackle. So now we're solidifying the offensive line because we have Patrick Paul on the left side and Caden Proctor is going to be on the right side. We're building that offensive line to give Malik Willis the protection. We just gave Devon Achane his contract. He now just became one of the highest paid running backs. Wow, they kept it. There's the running game. And we're bringing in receivers. Yes, some people are like, who are these receivers? Tutu Atwell, speedster. Didn't get an opportunity. Why? Out in L.A. Who was out there? Devontae Adams, Puka Nakua. How was Tutu going to get the ball? They're feeding them boys. Now he gets to build his own. Jalen Tolbert, we bring in from Dallas. Who was out there? CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. But guess what? Now he gets to find his way, right? You're starting to see it. You're starting to see the culture being built. And with the draft picks we brought in, the culture is establishing. What they're saying, what society's saying, I'm tired of the noise. My wife wants to chime in.
Okay. So he was talking about culture, and a lot of people forget because as you're watching games, there are still reports on the side. Me and my husband, we reading NFL, we reading ESPN, we reading who said what and all those things. And there were points of time when Tua said some off the wall stuff about his team and had to come backtrack and apologize. That showed you that their culture, they were not meshing well. They were not doing well in the locker room. The locker room was out of control. There was no leadership. And when you start to see those things, it is a breakdown. So it's time for you to switch things up. Insanity means doing the same thing and expecting a different result. These boys haven't been in the playoff thing since when?
Well, we were in the playoff just a few years ago. We got blown out by Kansas City in the -4, but we haven't won a playoff game since the end of 2000, December 30th, 2000, where Lamar Smith rushed for over 200 years. That was the last time the Dolphins won a playoff game. Yards. So you're talking about 200 yards. So you're talking about going on 26 years from the last time they won a playoff game, right? I don't see them failing this year. I don't see them getting the #1 draft pick. Why? Because that's not what they're establishing. They're establishing a winning culture. They're establishing a team bonding, a team unity. My wife just brought it up about the lost control of the locker room. We had one of the best ever defensive coordinators, and he left after 1 year and went over to Philly and won a Super Bowl the next year, and he even said it. The locker room was out of control. If you don't control the locker room and put in a culture of being together as one, you're never going to succeed.
One band, one sound.
Let's go. So yes, I'm disappointed with hearing about this, and I'm going to be rambling and bringing it in because we are concluding what we have discussed this week about emotional intelligence, right? And I'm tying this in, and my wife loved it that I tied it in because as a sports fanatic that I am, and there's a lot of y'all out there that are just like me, my wife is a music fanatic, okay? So her emotions are extreme when it comes to the music side. Mine is football. I follow sports. I follow all sports. I know a lot of historical information about all the sports, but football is me. That's where I open up my most passion. And just like a lot of y'all sports fanatics or fanatics of whatever it is that you love, you are very emotional when it comes to what you love, especially if it's your team or your favorite artist or your favorite writer. When you start hearing people talking about them or saying things about them, you go up because you're upset, and you come down because you're sad, whatever it may be. So your emotions go up and down, however it is, what you're hearing and what you're dealing with, because you believe in that. That is what you love. That's what you have all your passion for, right? So with that being said, as a fanatic sports fan, my emotions are extreme. My wife saw it for the first time last year. When we were first getting together, we weren't living together. So we were FaceTiming a lot. And I was in training in another state while she was back in her state. And the Dolphins was on against the Indianapolis Colts. So she's from Indianapolis. So that was already why we were watching the game. And I was losing my shit. I mean, my wife couldn't believe, like, who is this man? You know, right? And I'm going extreme, you know, getting mad. This don't make sense. You know, blah, 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 blah. She didn't understand it, but we discussed it throughout the day later on, and I was able to turn it off. Sometimes we don't turn it off. We get so fired up, we get so heated that we forget what's actually around us. You know, especially if you have kids. You know, when you're that upset about your team, we have people that take it out on their family and kids and other people. And you can't do those things. You got to know when to hold them and when to fold them. So you got to know how to control your emotions based on what's going on. And with that being said, it's the intelligence part about it, right? The only way me and my wife could work, and we're learning this, and she's actually been teaching me this, is information. The more information we give each other, the more we could work with each other, the more we could adapt to our surroundings, the more we could put a game plan together, right? Just like in football, right? In order to win games, you game plan, right? You get game film, you watch the game film, you break it down. The offense breaks down the defense breaks down the offense. They look for tendencies. They look for what they run similar of. They look at what their weakness is. They look at who's weak, etc. So, and then we come together and discuss what we found, how we found it, how we break it down. We're giving each other the information. And by giving us the information, we're able to put a game plan together on how we're going to win that game.
Yes. So, from my standpoint, with the emotional intelligence, like he said, you know, you get so riled up in the game. I mean, when you get down to it, when you go back to the original way, I mean, I remember in the '80s, the Miami Dolphins was it, right? We stayed in Riviera Beach, Florida, and every freaking Sunday it was a barbecue. It was Dolphin stuff everywhere. Miami Dolphins #1. Y'all remember the song, and you know it was everywhere. And it just remember the culture of coming together as a family. We eat and we chilling. I don't know nothing about no football as a kid, but I just knew that family was around, and it was just that moment. But now it starts to get in some households out of control. There was a report where the father, of course, he was a little tipsy, little drunk, and you know, on top of his emotions about the game and drinking and all of that stuff like that, and he shot his wife and his daughter. Like, it's getting out of hand, and the emotional intelligence needs to come into play. You need to know that after you watch a game, if you're in your man cave or you're in your living room or whatever, and it's been about 30 minutes and you're still pissed off about that play that was called in the first quarter, 5 minutes in, you need to go ahead and tap in and see that that is nothing to do with that game. That is everything to do with that father that was very critical of you. And every time, even if you won a game, he still made you sit down and watch your film back and told you what you coulda, shoulda, did. You're still upset about that. There's something in your inner child that's not healed. And that's where we want to tie this in. Enjoy your time with your family. Scream at the TV, whatever, because for some it's an outlet. Sometimes it's the only time you get to scream, because when you're dealing with corporate worlds, or you're a blue-collar man, white-collar man, whatever, you're a person to work with your hands, you work hard. So when the football season comes around, if you notice, there is no color. Nobody's worried about transgender lives. Ain't nobody worried about gay people. Ain't nobody worried about black folk. Everybody loves football. If we're in that stadium, we're all cheering together. We're buying drinks for each other. We are just, it's a unity. It's unity. And we just need to get back to that point. And like I said, if you're still upset after the fact, you need to tap in and see where the real trigger is coming from, because something in your past is making you still be upset. Use it as the outlet, scream when it's time, but when the buzzer is over and whoever won, it is what it is. Move on with your life, because now you have a child, now you have a wife that needs your attention, because they've given you the space to holler and scream if they ain't right next to you screaming with you, you know, and now it's time for you to turn that off and get back to being dad or getting back to being hubby.
And to add to that, earlier today, my father-in-law was outside working on his riding lawnmower. His riding lawnmower belonged to his brother who passed away years ago. He's had this riding lawnmower for 10 years, and it's an emotional connection that he has from his brother that passed away. And it broke down on him, so he was working on it. And I had some things to do around the yard because we just planted some new trees on our land, and he was getting, just in case if he gets the lawnmower started, I want to make sure that I have the stakes and flags, whatever it is, put there so he knows, not to hit him because our grass grew high. So I go talk to him and ask him, and I guess something happened with the riding lawnmower, and he got upset, fire hot. Man, I mean, he looked like if he had a gun, I would have been shot. You know what I'm saying? One of those like, what are you messing with me for? Why you? And I was like, hey, Dad. I was like, listen, it's hot out. I know you're frustrated. You're stressing out about, Frankie, because that's what we call the lawnmower, Frankie. I'm like, hey, let's take a break. Let's step away for a moment. Let's relax. Let's regroup. Okay? Things happen for a reason. Let's regroup. You've been out in the sun. You've been out here all morning. Let's regroup, right? He stepped away. I went and did what he did. Next thing you know, I see him coming around the corner on that riding lawnmower looking like a child in the candy store. He was so happy and so excited. So that's why I'm bringing that up, because we get so involved with our emotions that we do have a connection emotionally to something that we're not familiar with, or we might not know, because as men, we weren't taught these things. We weren't showed these things on how to tap into our emotions or what the emotion might correlate to. So sometimes we have to step back and regroup. And, like me and my wife, we're always, she's always teaching me as well, is that when we have a discussion and something may trigger, one of us has to be level-headed. One of us has to stay relaxed and calm, because if both people are triggered and both people are throwing darts at each other, it's never going to pan out. It's just going to escalate even worse. So a lot of times she will recognize it before I do and allow me to walk away, cool off, and then I will be aware, and I'm starting to be aware of what's, hey, what's going on? Why did I get triggered? So I fall in that category too. So when my Dolphins I'm all about my Florida teams. Well, let me rephrase that. My Miami teams, because I don't root for no other Florida team. My Miami teams, the Miami Dolphins, the Miami Heat, the Miami Hurricanes. Not so much the Miami Marlins. I just ain't baseball like that. And of course, from my hometown, the Florida Panthers. So I do get very emotional with it. But I came to realize just recently, talking with my wife, that I didn't get that recognition that I thought I needed or I deserved. It was a lot of times like, oh, well, you should have done that by now. Or you've been doing it for so long. What do you need to be celebrated for? That bothered me. So now I'm starting to be aware and see that, hey, when I get so upset, it's because I put so much pressure on myself because of what I wasn't receiving as a child, that, as my wife says, you're too much of a perfectionist. And it's true. And a lot of y'all are out there doing the exact same thing. You're putting so much pressure on yourself because of what you lacked growing up, that you're not understanding that you're doing more damage to everybody around you than you are trying to be perfect for them.
And to yourself.
And to yourself.
Well, we're going to go ahead and round it up, because, listen, the thing is, people are, the teams made their choices, okay? As everyone should in the draft. I see an issue. I had a lot of free agents on my team, all kind of things moving around, so I had to make the best choices for me. None of us know what is going to happen, okay? And I don't care who they pick, what pick. I mean, there's a lot of people that was the great hype, and then they get there and it was a total damn flop. So don't get hyped up with what they were doing in college and all of this other stuff like that, because I mean, college and NFL is two different places. Well, it's another stage. It's different people hollering and hooping at you. You Mr. Fernando, brother, I'm telling you, they love you in college, but these NFL folks, one bad pass, and they eating you up in 1 week, and then the next week they love you. Yes. So you got to be ready for that type of culture change. And a lot of people don't understand that these boys are going to come from where they're always loved, where they're getting flowers and everybody's always kissing their buttons and all that stuff like that. And in here it's like, bruh, just throw the ball. Don't nobody care. You might be having, your sponsorships and things like that. But then at the end of the game, if you're not giving the fan what they want, You know what I'm saying? And they don't care about no injury. They don't care about what your coach ain't. They don't care about any of that. They want you to win. Okay, so just remember that the culture changes, and these young boys will come in and either do wonderfully, Superman it out, and just blow up like And then there's some that just it's going to be a flop because it's too much again pressure on them. Some of them are carrying families on their backs. Yes. Okay, and when they feel like they're not playing up to par, things start to fall apart. Now let's go through this Dolphins schedule and think about some of these matchups. Now we could think about them, from because a lot of people are thinking from last year. Again, every team has changed. Every team has changed. And I don't care if you still got Mahomes at the ball, if you still got CJ at the ball, it doesn't matter. The rest of the pieces, there's some changes there. So you got to understand that the game will change. And let's just stay tuned. We got week 1. We have Las Vegas Raiders. We have San Francisco 49ers. We have the KCC. We have the Vikings. We have the Bengals. And on October 18th, we chilling. Then we have the New York Jets. We have the Patriots, his brother's team. Detroit Lions, my second best friends. We have Indianapolis Colts, hometown, naptown. We have Buffalo Bills, New York Jets, the Broncos, the Bears, the Packers, Chargers, Bills, and then we come again with the Patriots. I think those are some good matchups. You know what I'm saying? And they were talking about the Cardinals in the article, and somebody else. What was it? Raiders.
The Raiders.
They're having difficult. Look, all of them can be difficult. You know what I'm saying? And then you got some teams that are going international because this whole international thing is starting to pop off. You know what I'm saying? The games are getting longer for these boys. They're playing during holidays and all kind of stuff. So it's a lot of factors that can come into play. Just remember that they are still human. They are still human. And while you're at home making it seem like it's easy, you could have just got that ball. Won't you get out there with your 47-year-old self with your knees hurting and your back hurting? Okay, with your ACL was just torn 6 weeks ago, and it's still in your mind that if you make the wrong move, it's gonna get torn again. You're gonna sit down again. You gotta. We forget about that they are human. They're not cattle. Even cattle is an animal. You know what I'm saying? They're not robots. Okay, so we gotta always consider that these people are human, and a lot of factors come into play from week to week. Personal things, mental health. Substance abuse, you know what I'm saying? Alcohol. I mean, you're coming to a different culture where right after a game, you got to go do a VIP thing because this is how you get more money to carry that family that's on your back. You as a working man that's at home, understand what that feels like when you working 17 and 18 hours a day because you got to feed your family and make sure your kids get to college and make sure your son has what he needs for the sports that he plays. You're carrying a family on your back, and they are doing the same. They just doing it in a spotlight, which is even worse. Because now we got people picking and taking their lives apart. So this, Mr. Graziano, my husband, and myself, is an overreaction. Because can they be the last? Sure. Like any other team. Total overreaction.
I'm going to say this, and then we'll close this out, right? Just because what happened last year is last year, okay? What happens today is today. What happens in the future is the future. One thing my wife is getting me to see, and I've been major at doing this, is living in the past, dwelling in the past, as we like to say. And then I'm trying to focus on the future, like, why can't I be this? Why can't I be that? No. The only thing we could do and concentrate on right now, today, is today, the present, right? So right now with the present it's 0-0.
Hello.
All teams, okay? Doesn't matter what they did last year. Doesn't matter what they did in the draft. It's 0-0, okay? And of course, this is what we have to do. This is why these writers get paid what they get paid, because they have to write these articles. They need this interaction. I've loved this interaction. But damn it, man, if I just seen it last year, and I know I said don't say it, but you just seen the New England Patriots do it, anybody could do it. But then you could also... So even though I was just saying the past is the past, you have seen it where teams have been terrible and win, and then teams that were great and lose. It's anybody's ball game. It's anybody's championship now. This is what makes the season, this is what makes every year so great, because it's who's going to dominate, who's not going to dominate. But everybody wants to go with You're not going to see. We're never. Let's. I'm surprised we saw it in the first place, but we're never going to see a dynasty like the New England Patriots. I can't believe I'm saying this, but we aren't. They had over 20-year run of excellence where they went to 9 Super Bowls, right? You're not going to see that. I didn't even think we would see multiple Super Bowls from a team because of the whole trades and money and salary cap, all that stuff. But the New England Patriots found ways to stay dominant for over 20 years. You're not going to see that. So a lot of Patriot fans, I mess with them, they were spoiled. Okay? So when they started losing, they didn't know how to act. So last year, it made me sick. It made me sick to my stomach to see them in the Super Bowl again. But they brought the culture back in. And that's what goes back to what I was saying, the culture of everything. You have to have the culture, which goes back to the beginning of everything, the foundation. Once you establish the foundation, then you could build on top of it. And that's what the Dolphins are doing. They're building their foundation. And once that foundation is set in stone, now they're going to build the framing.
This has been Friday Frenzy, and it is a total overreaction to think that them boys are going to be at the bottom. It could be any one of y'all. 32 teams.
Not them Dolphins, that's for sure.
0-0 at this point, clean slate. Please join us on Monday for Motivational Mondays as we continue to heal together. I'm your girl, She Rambles.
And I'm Coach O. I'm Coach O. Boop, boop. Coach O speaks. And the record is what I said, 10-7.
Okay, let's go.